We welcome you to the Twin Cities in Winston-Salem. Game 2 of our ACC Network football triple header. Number 13, Wake Forest, is home after a 2-game road trip into the state of New York with wins at Syracuse and the Army. And look who's visiting after a bye week. Trying to snap a 3-game skid, old rival Duke is here. Deacons off to a number 13 mark. They're 4-0 in the ACC for the first time, and Duke winless in 3 games. Great to be with Roddy Jones. Taylor Davis joins us here in just a moment. Well, this one has got all the trappings, doesn't it?
It certainly does. You got a Wake Forest team that's number 13 in the country who's become a hot topic for the national media. People posturing, what if they go undefeated? College football playoff, can they make an appearance? Wake doesn't need to worry about that. Just keep stacking wins 1 game at a time. And the coaches told us, we don't even know who we play this week. Next week, we're worried about Duke.
So while Wake stays focused, Duke tries to get on a win track. Remember now, when the Blue Devils are good, it's usually this trio on the offensive side. Number 1 in the ACC in completion percentage, quarterback Gunnar Holmberg. Number 2 in rush yards per game, Mateo Durant. The number 2 pass catcher, receptions per game, Jake Bobo for David Cutcliffe's team.
Yeah, and despite the performance a week ago against Virginia where they didn't put up a point, this is a dangerous trio. Gunnar Holmberg's giving them the best quarterback play for this Duke Blue Devil offense that they've had since Daniel Jones left. You look at Mateo Durant, he's as explosive as there is in the league, one of the best backs in the league, and then Jake Bobo, the coaches for Wake Forest, just raved about what he brings to that offense that they have to defend today. So this is a dangerous group, and as you said, if they're going to get on the right track, it's going to be through those 3.
Well, and once you settle in with us, you might not go anywhere, because on the other side of the coin is Sam Hartman, who only threw for 458 last week, leading the Deacs to 70 points against Army.
Yeah, the only criticism is that I didn't get to see him on camera long enough. Only 17 minutes and 17 seconds on the field a week ago to put up those 70 points. You see the numbers. 3rd in the ACC in passing yardage, 3rd in the ACC in passing touchdowns. Top 15 nationally in both of those. He's been absolutely fantastic, and the growth that he's had with his body and also his mentality is something that Dave Clawson could not talk enough about.
Well, great to have Taylor Davis with us again, and both teams will tell us during the week, Taylor, don't look at the records. It's Wake and Duke, and history tells you it's a different story.
Anything goes, Wes. It's the 101st meeting between these in-state rivals, and a lot of familiarity between the two. Close proximity, recruiting overlap, even some similarities of system. Now keep in mind, this matchup was unable to happen last year because of COVID-19 concerns, and a lot's changed in 2 years, specifically personnel. Both coaches reminding their teams this is a matchup with a lot of history and not as much predictability.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Deacons have won the last 2, 3 of 4. The series dates back to November 1889 when Duke won an 8-4 game.
What a game.
Don't ask me how they had 8-4 as the final.
What a game that was.
Scorigami must have gone nuts. Well, so here we go. Charlie Ham's going to kick it away. Sellout house expected here at Truist Field in Winston-Salem. Wake Forest trying to go 8-0 for the first time in history. Charlie Ham's kick. And this will be Keyshawn Williams watching it sail over his head. And here comes Sam Hartman and Wake Forest from its 25, Roddy.
Well, I joked about the fact that this Wake Forest offense wasn't on the field very long in that game against Army, but they really didn't have to be. They were so efficient throwing the ball down the field to those excellent receivers, A.T. Perry, Jaquari Roberson, both getting in the mix, as well as a myriad of others. But Sam Hartman's ability to deliver the ball accurately, his ability to command the offense was on full display in very limited amount of time against Army.
Sam Hartman could go as high as 5th on the Wake career passing charts today. First down give, Christian Beal-Smith firing through. He'll pick up 9 to the 34-yard line. Opan makes the play. Defensively, he starts at one of the ends. You see Gary Smith, 58. Dwayne Carter, 90, patrol the middle for Duke's defense. Here's Beal-Smith again. First down for Wake Forest. And Christian Beal-Smith, who played at East Forsyth High School here in the Twin Cities, gets the carry for the Demon Deacons. Wake comes in now, 5th in the league in total offense, 7th running it, 3rd passing it, number 2 scoring it after hanging 70 on the Cadets last week. 1st and 10, Hartman's first throw. Near side and the catch made A.T. Perry, who's worked his way to the Biletnikoff list during the week, Roddy.
And well-deserved for what he's done over the course of the season. And these receivers are going to be huge today. They're going to get a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of man-to-man coverage. Duke, one of the biggest man-to-man teams in the country.
Beal Smith tries the right side this time. Good block on the perimeter. That was his tight end, Brandon Chapman, helping him out. Cross midfield before Lenny Young the tackle.
You see the blocking up front that you mentioned. Number of guys out in front. Number 23, Brandon Chapman, one of the tight ends, doing a nice job up the field as well.
At the Duke 48. Hartman gonna launch, and Perry got knocked down in a collision, and here comes the flag. Looked like he got tangled up on the play with Nate Thompson. Here's Gary Patterson.
Holding, number 33, defense, 10-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Was Leonard Johnson the corner.
Yeah, you're going to see Perry's trying to get up the field. You just got that tug on the back by Johnson, and then the trips over the feet, but it's the tug on the back that really gets you on the hole.
So 1st and 10 after the penalty, the ball at the Blue Devil 38-yard line. Hartman fakes the throw, down the seam, Jaquari Roberson, touchdown, Wake Forest.
Well, Wes, it's an excellent delivery by Sam Hartman, but this doesn't happen without the offensive line's ability to keep him clean in the pocket. He's about 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage when he throws that. Jaquari Roberson wins down the field over Jalen Stinson. It's an excellent delivery, and Wake Forest shows how explosive they can be getting on the board early.
5 plays, 75 yards, 91 seconds. Skiba's kick is good.
Well, it's an excellent job of winning early in the route for Jaquari Roberson. He makes the back end easy. Some kisses for the fans on home coming up 7-0.
ACC Network Football is brought to you by new Coca-Cola Zero Sugar and Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Try the best combo ever today.
Well, Rodney, Wake Chapel, right there off the quad on the Wake Forest campus. Things go right, they'll fill those trees with toilet paper tonight on a homecoming Saturday here in Winston-Salem. And I'd say so far so good for Dave Clawson's team. Last 4 years, they're number 3 in the country when in scoring first at 76%. Wow. Only Bama and Clemson have done it better nationally than the Deacons have.
Not Clemson this year.
We said last 3.
Last 3. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Jalen Stinson will wait on the kick from Mora, and here is Stinson off the 5. 24-yard line before he got taken out of the air. Pretty good play by Keyshawn Williams. Time for Roddy Jones's Food Line. Food for thought today.
Look, here's what both teams need to do. For Wake Forest, it's all about, for Duke, it's all about playing clean. It's one of the most penalized teams and one of the teams that commits the most turnovers in the league. You're going to upset the number 13 team in the country. You're going to have to do that. They got to get to Sam Hartman, too, which they didn't do on that first drive. For Wake, they're going to have to win downfield. They've already shown they can do that, and then they got to stop number 21 in the backfield, Mateo Durant.
Here's Calhoun going to the far side on the sweep. First play of the ball game, and a nice play. Nick Anderson, the safety, comes barreling through to take Jalen Calhoun down back at the 22.
It's a Duke team that's going to go with some tempo as well, and a Wake defense that's given up over 700 yards the past couple of weeks.
Very quickly, 2nd and long. Humberg wants to throw, and offline for Jake Marweedy, the tight end. Roddy, a couple of things about Wake the last couple of weeks. You mentioned the big number that they've allowed offensively. 64 first downs.
Yeah. Well, most of the damage that I just mentioned, that's 700 yards, is 700 yards on the ground. Over 400 to Army, over 300 to Syracuse, so stopping the run's going to be huge. Gunnar Holmberg, he's going to want his offense to stay out of these situations because Wake, one of the best teams in the conference, attacking the quarterback.
Yep, and Duke, number 4 in the ACC, top 20 on 3rd down, and now a flag, and I think we got movement. We did.
False start, number 5, offense, 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Tough series for Calhoun. Lost 3 on the first play, and there is the Birmingham native at 67 years of age, David Cutcliffe, Season number 14 in Durham, 21 as a head coach.
Just mentioned, this is one of the most penalized teams in the league, the Duke Blue Devils. Already an early penalty costing them 5 yards.
3rd and long. Holmberg cuts it loose. Caught. Bobo. First down for Duke out to the 40-yard line. Tackle made Gavin Holmes, the freshman from New Orleans, on a 23-yard throw.
It's a great job of Gunnar Holmberg climbing in the pocket, getting out, finding Jake Bobo.
Here's Mateo Durant's first carry of the day. Durant into Wake territory, down to the 42-yard line. Kalen Carson, the stop for the Deacons.
They might be fortunate he kind of lost his footing there a little bit because it looked like there was more in this run. See him kind of slip when he's trying to get the left-hand turn, but Mateo Durant showing how explosive he can be.
So now the Blue Devils with a little rhythm after the big 3rd down conversion. And Durant's 2nd carry of the ball game. Boy, runs into Masterson and kind of over Nick Masterson for a gain of about 5 on 1st down. Roddy, this has got a chance to be like this, though, today, right?
Yeah, this Wake defense has really struggled in ACC play, giving up a ton of yards since they've gotten into it.
3rd straight carry for Durant. Deacons, and there's Miles Fox wearing the big number 11. Luigi Villan also on the tackle.
I mentioned the yardage that this defense has given up. Over 500 total yards in each of the past 4 games. Obviously Army and Syracuse, but before that, Louisville and Virginia able to rack up big yardage against this Wake Forest defense.
Another 3rd down. That's Calhoun in motion. Here's Durant. He slips again. Mateo Durant, I'm not sure that anybody got a hand in. Roddy, looks like he's having a hard time keeping his balance on the field turf.
Yeah, and that one was a little bit more strange than the one downfield. I mean, you can understand it downfield on that one. I don't know what happened. He got his feet tangled up or it was just a misstep. It sets up a 4th down. Jake Bobo is going to be to the top of your screen, singled up one-on-one with off coverage.
Duke is 8 of 14 this year on 4th down. Holmberg pushing the pocket. Going to shoot it for Calhoun and beyond his reach. Incomplete. Jasir Taylor was the closest Deacon in the neighborhood. So Duke gives it back on downs.
I like them being aggressive and going for it. Field position's not going to work against this Wake Forest offense, but you got to deliver an accurate ball if you're Gunnar Holmberg. Get that ball down, let Jalen Calhoun catch it, and get the first down because they had it. They had the play.
Right.
Just not the execution.
Well, down a score. Wake takes over at its 36-yard line, already leading 7-0.
Yeah, and check that out. Just continuing the quick strike that they had against Army.
Here's Hartman stepping up again, and that ball got knocked down at the line of scrimmage. I think that might have been Ben Fry at 6'3", the grad student from Dublin, Ohio, getting a paw in the air.
And you know what's amazing? With everything that Wake does close to the line of scrimmage, Sam Hartman doesn't get a lot of balls tipped at the line of scrimmage. He usually does a really good job of finding seams to throw the football.
You see Roberson in motion. Hartman going to cut it loose again. Jaquari the catch. Helped out of bounds, and that's Jalen Stinson pushing him out at the 41, and Roberson over in that Duke bench area works his way back to the playing surface.
This is what you're going to see. These Duke defensive backs are going to have to come up and make tackles on these underneath routes while not getting beat deep. But a 3rd and medium here. You've got Roberson and Perry down to the bottom.
Hartman, quick shot into traffic. It is caught. Nope, incomplete. The intended receiver was Jaquari Roberson, but it's ruled incomplete, and Ivan Mora will come on and punt for the Deacons here. Well, Coach Clausen, 2nd possession, got a stop and couldn't do anything with it. They didn't miss, by the way, Ivan Mora, he didn't even see action last week at West Point. There was no punting involved.
No, there was not.
And in fact, Ivan's been over there just eating the meals on the travel squad.
Non-participation role.
October 9th was his last punt. Welcome to Halloween. Look at this. All that time off, and he kills it. And the fielding, Blackwell fielded it, and then he got lit up. Was that Beal Smith downfield? 62-yard punt by Mora. His best of the year, Roddy.
It's an excellent coverage. How about the running back? Running back can do more than just carry the ball, Wes.
Well, it is homecoming here in Winston-Salem. And some big league work being done, Roddy, outside Truist Field.
Big league work by that plate. I mean, he's putting a lot of trust in that thing, loading it up.
Yep. Duke will start from at 7. The hill here at Truist Field is covered. Folks are here. Sellout recorded. Homecoming Saturday to see number 13 Wake Forest try to do something they have never done in school history, and that's to go 8-0. Last time they were 7-0. Guess who stopped the streak? Duke. Paul Amon's Deacons lost to the Blue Devils. Here's Mateo Durant on first down. He'll get 3 to the 10 before Chase Jones, the linebacker, first guy to get there.
Gunnar Holmberg had a couple of throws that were just off on that first drive. But the thing that I think should have been impressed to him on the sideline is you got receivers open. You're going to have opportunities. Just settle down and deliver the football.
Here's Durant, another carry, hits the cutback, 20, and tripped up at the 23, 24-yard line. Handling that for Wake Forest was Malik Mustafa, transfer from Richmond after 14 yards.
If Duke is going to be able to get yardage on their inside zone play, it is going to be really tough for Wake Forest today. Mateo Durant already gashing him a couple times.
And there's a 2-yard gain before Valan pulls him down. So Valan, the transfer, by the way, from Michigan, from Canada. There's a look at Luigi.
There's a couple things that have been going on with this Wake rush defense. It starts up front with the defensive line, but also the fits from the linebackers have been off at times.
Holmberg will push it right, and Calhoun, a great catch. Leaping grab at the 38 ahead of Taylor.
We did not have Jalen Calhoun on our graphic earlier, but I am often left wondering when you watch Duke football, why isn't this guy getting the ball more? He is incredibly explosive. Jeff Ferris, the offensive coordinator, talked to us this week about getting 5 the ball early and often.
3 career 100-yard games receiving, 2 of them this year. Holmberg trying to come back and find Pankow, and threw it behind him, and Gunnar Holmberg is slow to get up. Too slow, in fact. And is still down on the play. And that is not good news for Duke.
There's a lot of traffic around him when he threw that. He's holding on to that right hand.
Hit a helmet, Roddy?
Yeah, that's what I would guess. Yeah. Oof. Oh.
So we'll take a break. Back with more from Winston-Salem in a moment. Gunnar Holmberg was able to get off the field. Looks like they're taping up the left hand. And interesting, Duke has changed their battery. Not only has Riley Leonard come in to quarterback for a 3rd time this year, played at Virginia 2 weeks ago, so is Jalen Coleman as the running back. Here's a little shovel pass, and this is Coleman trying to make a man miss. And guess what? They got 4, maybe 5 out of it. Travion Red, the stop for Wake Forest from the secondary.
Yeah, you mentioned they were tending to the hand of Gunnar Holmberg. You could kind of see when he came up, looked like one of those situations where your fingers get twisted up a little bit. So it's going to be Riley Leonard on this 3rd down play. It's like you're going to have to deliver the football.
Leonard 8 of 12 throwing it this year, 81 yards. And he will try to keep it, and the Deacons rallied nicely. Chase Jones, the first guy in a black hat there. Taylor, what do you got on Gunnar?
Well, guys, over here on the Duke sideline, he actually got those 2 middle fingers on his left hand taped together. He seems very comfortable. He spent some time talking with Coach Cutcliffe while he was getting taped up, though, talking about what he's seeing, what kind of pressure they're throwing his way. Coach Cutcliffe telling him, settle in. We're in a good spot. Things are open for you. Just find it.
Sorry. Well, what sage advice you get when you come to the sideline. Calming influence David Cutcliffe from D. Roddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taylor Morin to wait on the punt of Porter Wilson. Look at this thing. 2 really good punts to start the game. Morin inside the 5. Tries to get to the perimeter. Flag down, 15. And he'll be taken back shy of the 20-yard line. And it was Lummy Young, I think, on punt cover for the Blue Devils. A 56-yard punt. And we will check the flag here from referee Gary Patterson.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 82, return team. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
You're going to see it. Yeah, it's not much, but it's pretty clear. The thing is, Taylor Morin fielded that on like the 3-yard line. Let it go into the end zone, and that's never a case. You got to go 18 yards, 17 yards to get the yardage back that you would get just by letting it hit and go in the end zone. We're seeing that a lot in college football now, and usually it's when you have those the nose down kicks, the sort of the pitching wedges. That one was boomed, was surely going in the end zone had you let it hit. But now his team's inside the 5-yard line starting off.
Boy, we exploded out of the gate here in Winston-Salem. Now we've exchanged punts, which is almost foreign territory for both these schools.
Seriously.
Now Hartman and the Deacs off their 4. And this is the first carry of the day for Christian Turner. There's a transfer from Michigan, redshirt sophomore from Buford, Georgia, wearing 0. He had 15 carries for 56 yards and then just 17 total carries in the last 3 ball games. Picked up 3 there, 2nd and 7. We'll see Turner, we'll see Justice Ellison as well today. And here is Hartman rerouting on his drop, throwing down the field and incomplete, looking for Keyshawn Williams. Crowd of Deacon fans on this near sideline wanted a flag on Jalen Alexander, nothing coming.
Yeah, and nothing should have come. The ball was overthrown and just a little bit out of the reach. Yeah, good no call there, absolutely.
It's all of a sudden now 3rd down and a full 7 for Wake Forest. Hartman straight drop with time, now flush to his left, and he will throw back. And did Chapman hang on? He did at the 24. Brandon Chapman, the 5th-year senior, hauls it in against the linebacker Ryan Smith for the first down.
It's a great catch, and for Sam Hartman to deliver this football against the way he's running, just kind of flinging it out for Chapman, who's got to catch it under duress. It's a great 3rd down play coming out of the end zone.
Just the 4th catch of the year for Chapman. Here's Hartman going to gun it downfield, looking for Williams. Did he hold through? He did. In Duke territory and a first down at the Duke 40 for Keyshawn Williams.
You turn on the film of Wake Forest, and one thing you will see every single game is how competitive they are at receiver. When the ball's in the air, it is their football. They go up and get it. Keyshawn Williams makes a massive play.
2 big throws by Hartman. Here goes Turner rather to the perimeter and banged out of bounds after a gain of 4 or 5 by Leonard Johnson.
It could be really disheartening for your defense. You had a great setup on 3rd down. You defended the first play. Hartman escapes, flings it downfield. You barely miss knocking it down. Then the big play after can really put you on your heels.
Turner looking for room again. And maybe just a yard or 2 toward the 32. Shaka Hayward comes in as the Blue Devils' leading tackler. 60 stops, 6 of them behind the line on the year. Heading into today. Wake in 2-down territory, Rowdy?
Oh, absolutely.
Hartman shoots it middle of the field. A.T. Perry the catch. First down for the Deacs, just outside the 26.
The reason I think you are is because you're always going to get you are going to get more one-on-one matchups against Duke than anybody. And guys like A.T. Perry, you saw the route running, the ability to vary his pace and then explode on the slant, catch the football. You may be able to get that all day.
Hartman going to work on first down. Now, steps right, flag down, behind the play. Hayward edged him out, back near the 21, but I think this is going to come back to a hold at the line of scrimmage. Gary Patterson.
Offense, number 62, 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Well, that's on the big freshman Devontae Gordon at right tackle.
Devontae Gordon has stepped in and done a nice job. Had the early injury early in the season, before the season, to Javonte Nash, one of their most experienced players. He's done a really nice job there at right tackle, but that time just a little too handsy.
Back to the 37 on the penalty. Hartman 6 of his first 9 for 106 and a score. That time a bullet that Perry had to recatch. and falls down at the 26-yard line. This thing was hummed at him.
Absolutely was. I'm not sure that he expected it to come that fast. How about that catch? It's impressive, the concentration.
Like tracking a meteor.
Yeah, exactly.
2nd and 9. Boy, Hartman, great balance. Now going to run with it. First down and more. 10-5. Touchdown for Sam Hartman.
Wes, we don't talk much about the legs of Sam Hartman, but that is certainly a massive weapon for him. The drag route clears the linebacker out there. There's nobody there with man-to-man coverage on the back end, and he outruns the middle safety to the end zone. The legs of Sam Hartman have proven to be useful a number of times for Wake Forest this year. He shows the speed by getting in the end zone.
9 plays, 96 yards, 3:16 the time of the drive. Skiba's point is good. Roddy, the throw to Chapman, then the next play, those two kind of got Wake rolling.
Yeah, look, sometimes players define drives. That was a Sam Hartman drive. His ability to deliver the football, escape down near the end zone, throw the ball to Chapman, the beautiful throw to Williams, the beautiful throw to A.T. Perry, and then his legs. That was a Sam Hartman drive. Shows why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC.
Well, so Deacons now with a 2-touchdown advantage with just better than 4 to play in the first. And a quick reminder to you, coming up tonight at 7:30, Game 3 of our ACC Network triple header. Primetime football presented by Geico will take you to Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh for Louisville and NC State. The Cards are 3-1 against the Pack in Raleigh, by the way. And the Wolfpack riding 7 straight wins at Day Family Field.
Wow. Didn't know that. That's going to be an interesting game. Look, NC State's got to bounce back.
We saw the Cards last week.
And NC State still has its destiny in its hands. I mean, NC State's coming up. And if you take care of your business and beat Wake Forest, then you're in the championship game. You can say the same thing about Wake. Take care of your business. You got everything in front of you.
By the way, I'd like to welcome Virginia to the Control Your Own Destiny ball game.
Yes. How about that, man?
End over end kick. Stinson will field it inside the 5 at the 2, and all of a sudden running out of room, and he got pulled down at the 16-yard line. Christian Beal-Smith has got 2 special teams tackles, Roddy.
You know,
the more you can do.
Love me a running back that's going to run down on special teams. And all joking aside, you turn on tape, if you're an NFL evaluator, you see Christian Beal-Smith down there making a punt, a play on the punt team. You see him making a play on the kickoff team. That's a guy where if you're thinking about taking him late, you do it because he's going to help you on special teams.
Yep.
Gunnar Holmberg back in the game.
Jarrett Garner, who's had 3 catches for 47 yards last 2 games for Duke, top of the screen. Here's Holmberg back in the lineup, and Bobo defended well on a throw. That's Kalen Carson, who a little bit of trial by fire last year, having to be forced into that Wake secondary, Roddy, because of some injuries. Carson responded with a nice season a year ago, playing in his 16th game today for Dave Clawson.
And that was a nice play, just sat on the curl route by Jake Bobo on the outside.
Holmberg on 2nd in the full 10. That's Robertson in motion. Here is Durant, and he will pick up almost 5 to the 20. Tackle made by Suleiman Kamara.
I know you don't want to be overly predictable if you're Duke, but I mean, they've gotten a ton of yardage on their inside zone plays early in this game.
Here's Holmberg, cuts it loose, middle of the field. That's Jarrett Garner, the catch. A stiff arm 35, 40. Garner toward midfield, forced out of bounds into the Wake bench area after a 30-yard throw from Gunnar Holmberg.
Check out this catch. Scales the ladder to go and get it. After he does a nice job after the catch. Gunnar Holmberg, despite that finger injury on the non-throwing hand, came back slinging.
Here's Durant. Look at everybody missing, but not Luke Masterson. Mateo Durant got into the fold of that, Roddy. Well, you tell me, what's a running back thinking when you dive into traffic and say, I'm going to reroute here?
Yeah, well, Mateo Durant's got such great speed that you try and get outside. The thing is, I don't like it when running backs do it, when they're doing it with the ball on the inside hand, because you've got nothing to fend off that defender. You're relying on pure speed. So that one, I'd love him to stick outside, get some positive yardage up inside.
Cole Finney, the tight end, in motion. This is Durant right side. And Masterson and Anderson combined on the stop. So third down coming up for the Blue Devils. Roddy, here's a team that's lost 3 straight, 48-0 at Virginia 2 weeks ago, their last time out, off of bye week. Clearly trying to turn the volume up here early, but you're down 2 scores. Durant hits the cutback, first down into the Wake secondary, down to the 32 before Anderson makes the stop again for Coach Clawson's club.
And they had that play on an earlier third down and just missed the block on the split zone. That time, the defensive end gets too far up the field. You don't need the block from the tight end, and you're able to crease the Wake Forest defense. I like Duke running that play. Up inside, I mean, Wake has had trouble stopping the run.
Here's Holmberg buying time. Now he'll run with it and slide down smartly at the 25. So second and about 4 for the Blue Devils when we snap it here in the final 2 minutes of quarter number 1. Duke wasting no time, may get more than a couple snaps.
Yeah.
That's Finney again, the tight end. Quick hitter, Coleman nowhere, maybe a yard. Jalen Coleman is a sophomore from east of Charlotte. He had 3 carries in the last 2 ball games, only had 7 on the season prior to today, and we've seen him carry it 3 times.
Yeah, and we've got number 8, Jordan Moore, in the game at quarterback, the running threat of the 2.
And Holmberg stays on the field here. Here goes Moore, and he will be close to the first down. Now, Roddy, I don't know that we've seen Jordan Moore and Gunnar Holmberg in our preparation on the turf together.
Yeah, certainly not much. I'm not sure it changes a lot. You know, when you have those quarterbacks on the field, sometimes they're in a non-participation role, but they're going for it. If I'm Duke, it's Mateo Durant all the way, and I know Wake Forest is expecting it as well, but you got to go with the guy who gives you the best chance.
Pistol set. It's Moore, the keeper. And if he broke the 22, he got the first down. And in fact, they've already said, give it to him. Here comes Holmberg back. Moore will go out. So we'll have to keep an eye on that plan the rest of the day. Offensive coordinator Jeff Ferris. He and Raekwon Boyette, the contemporary of old Roddy's up here. They coordinate the offense for David Cutcliffe. 11th play of the drive for the Blue Devils. Holmberg in the pocket, eludes the pressure, and will fall forward and pick up a couple to the 19. Valane, the Michigan transfer, of the stop. Final play of the quarter. All of a sudden, Sam Hartman's got one on the ground, got one through the air to get us started, and Wake's got a 2-touchdown lead after a period. Winston-Salem on a homecoming Saturday at Truist Field with Roddy Jones, Taylor Davis, Wes Durham. David Harris is our producer, Nick Young, our director. Great to have you with us for our ACC Network football coverage. Number 13, Wake Forest, pitching a shutout through a quarter of play, but we've been going a little bit here. We've had some tempo. No need for a play clock. Here's Mateo Durant on 2nd and 8. And he will get to the 17. Chase Jones kind of, I think, got a hand in there on Durant out of Metropolitan Plum Branch, South Carolina. Roddy?
One of the other keys for Duke today is going to be scoring touchdowns in the red zone. 13th in the conference in red zone touchdown scoring for Duke. Field goals aren't going to win it for you today. You're going to have to put the ball in the end zone.
That's Bobo in motion. Third down for Holmberg. Going to push it to the left. Throw for Bobo. The catch. It's going to be just shy, I believe. Boy, he got banged out of bounds right in front of our camera folks down there. Malik Mustafa, the stop. And is
you
it 2
go
yards, Roddy?
No, you got to go for it here. I don't think you can kick the field goal. Field goals against this Wake team, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. You got to go for it and put the ball in the end zone. You're already down 2 touchdowns, and Wake's not going to stop. So leaving the offense on the field is the right thing to do.
So it is 4th and 2. Is this Durant? That's what the Wake coaches might be thinking, right?
Yeah, I would imagine 21 gets the ball here.
Holmberg under center. Timeout asked for by David Cutcliffe. We'll take it with them. We're early in the second. 65 seconds in. Still 14-0. Duke at decision time. And reaching back for it was the tight end, Dalmolin, but out of bounds and incomplete. Chase Jones was the guy that closed the angle on Holmberg, the linebacker.
I get what Duke's trying to do. The best player on the field for your team is number 21, and in those situations, you'd love to see him touch the ball. You're relying on the play fake to him to open it up on the outside, but it's a nice job by this Wake Forest defense, Jasir Taylor in particular, because they're trying to go to Dalmolin. He's right on him, and that ball thrown too late, out of bounds. Wake Forest gets another fourth down stop.
Roddy, 14 plays, nothing to show for it. Deacons take over off their 13-yard line. And Christian Beal-Smith back to work. Maybe a yard or two, tried to get back up. Whistles blow, and
Christian Beal-Smith, it's only his fifth carry, but he's been doing work. A couple of tackles already.
Yep.
Love to see that.
Hartman tries to cut it loose. Donald Stewart the catch. Knocked out of bounds near a Wake Forest first down. Josh Blackwell, the corner to the boundary side.
You know, the timing on this Wake Forest offense is impeccable. I mean, as soon as Sam Hartman takes the snap, he diagnoses where he wants to go to the ball, and he's delivering it right as these receivers are coming out of their breaks. So hard for those DBs to defend.
Here's Hartman. Thought about the run, now backs up. Oh, he's going to cut it loose. Down the far sideline and beyond Roberson, who was in coverage with Jalen Stinson. Now, if the ball's on line, Jacory's going to win it. He's 6'1", and Jalen is 5'8".
But watch Christian Beal-Smith coming around, picking up the blitz, and allowing his quarterback some time. That's Lummy Young coming off the edge. I don't think these running backs for this Wake offense get enough credit for all the things that they do. They're involved in the pass protection after those play fakes, even on those RPOs. Do an excellent job there as well as running the ball.
2nd and 10. Hartman thought about it, now in trouble. Hayward fell down, the throw and the catch is made. Morin hangs on, but it's inside the 30. So it's going to be about 3rd and 5 here, Roddy.
Well, Duke is able to get to Sam Hartman there, but they don't bring him down. And then downfield, you see the competitiveness by Morin, who's moved outside this year from his slot position before.
Here's Hartman, middle of the field, the catch made. That's Whitehart, the tight end, first down. Ball out to the 45-yard line before Thompson knocks him down. 17-yard throw.
Watch 85 there in the middle. The stutter, that's all he needs. And then the timing. I mean, as soon as he puts his foot in the ground to make the cut, Sam Hartman's going to cut it loose. Whitehart catches it, is able to get upfield and get some extra yardage.
Fresh set of downs. Here's Wake now, leading by 2 scores, looking for more. Hartman going to cut it loose. Donald Stewart overthrown. Stewart is a guy that has started to pick it up. 2 catches in each of the last 3 games, including last week at Army. And you get the feeling that Wake is adding to the receiving depth that already has Roberson, Perry, Morin, Keyshawn Williams. And let alone we've seen 2 tight ends catch balls here in this first half.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you run as many plays as they do, you're going to need depth, and they certainly have it.
7 different guys have made plays in the air, and now Beal-Smith, stiff arm on the edge, and slips down at the 47 of the Blue Devils. So 3rd and 3 coming up.
Great patience before bursting it outside. And in this 3rd and 3, I mean, everything's in the playbook for Wake Forest. Whitehart, it's dangerous. You've got Roberson and Perry are going to be to the bottom of your screen. There they are. Morin's at the top, singled up.
Hartman. Now we'll keep it again. He's already had his career best run. Now he's going to do something else. 15, 10, took on a man at the 7 and plows out of bounds. It'll be 1st and goal at the Duke 6. Leonard Johnson was the last line of defense, and now flags come in.
Personal foul, targeting, number 33, defense. half the distance to the goal, automatic first down. Previous play is under further review.
Okay, Roddy. So we get a timeout, 11:21 to go. Leonard Johnson doesn't like the whistle. We'll check it out, come back and tell you about it in a moment. All right, Roddy, take me through it.
Well, I think the reason that the flag is thrown is because you have Johnson putting his head down, but you have to have forcible contact with the crown of the helmet. That there, not forcible. Sam Hartman really makes the contact, so no targeting.
First and goal at the 6. Beal Smith in the gun here. Little wildcat for the Deacons of Dave Clawson. And number 1 trying to find a place to run and cannot. So second and goal coming up.
They haven't gone to that wildcat as much as they have in past years this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have to prepare for it when you play against a Wake Forest team, but I think Wake Forest this year, you don't want to take the ball out of the hands of Sam Hartman, although Christian Beal Smith getting an opportunity there.
Yep. Hartman now will put Beal Smith sidecar with him.
A.T. Perry lined up one-on-one to the bottom.
Wow. Here's Hartman. Quick look. Now will he run again? No, he's trying to get some help. And he'll end up losing a yard back to the 4. Ben Fry, who recovered a couple of fumbles in a ball game earlier this year against Northwestern, is able to track him down.
It's a nice job by Duke on defense. When they flip the back over, Leonard Johnson, who's up on the line of scrimmage, backs off, kind of making it a little more predictable where you're going to go with Perry. It makes it easier on the cornerback as they're lined up to go again.
11th play of the drive. Here's Hartman again. Nobody home, and he will score on the ground again. All the other options are covered, Roddy.
There's 2 parts when you're playing man-to-man coverage down near the goal line. One is covering the defenders, the receivers downfield. It's 2 is accounting for the quarterback. Everybody's got their back turned that's in coverage. You lose contain on the edge of the defensive line, and Sam Hartman's legs have become the biggest weapon for Wake Forest.
11 plays, 87 yards in 3 minutes and 51 seconds. And Nick Skiba's point after is good. Sam Hartman has 2 rushing scores, and he's got 2 big runs in the game, too.
Absolutely does. Get the seal on the outside. Sam Hartman, dual threat quarterback here today, Wes.
Well, take a look at 84% of Wake's offense, Roddy. He's accounted for 222 of the 263 that Wake has so far in the ball game. 2 big runs and a touchdown pass to start us off this afternoon, and it's 21-0. There's the particulars in the throw game.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include the rushing numbers that you mentioned, but 2 touchdowns on the ground. He's been on it today.
So it's 21-0, and that sense of desperation might be setting in with the guys wearing the white jerseys here, Roddy. You've had 3 possessions. Twice you've given it away on downs in plus territory.
The question for Duke is, how do you respond? They were down 21-0 against Virginia last week too. So explosive offense, or excuse me, a couple weeks ago, explosive offense that you're down to. How can you start to climb back in this game 1 score at a time?
Yep. Mora will kick it away. And Stinson is going to bring this out 2 yards deep. Stutter step at the 15, now in trouble. Black shirts falling in, and he'll be taken down back at the 10-yard line. And Jalen Hudson, the linebacker, makes the play. Taylor, we're getting our full screen of Sam Hartman here today.
We sure are. And guys, a key piece of that RPO success is his ability to make multiple reads before deciding to hand it off. I talked to Sam this week to get his take on it. He said they capitalize on different tendencies, and it's about communication and trust for him to make the right checks. He said it's like knowing the answer to the test before you take it. Guys, he's got the answers today.
Got A+ so far. Holmberg, quick throw. What a catch. Pancol up the ladder and across the 30 for a Duke first down.
Great catch, great delivery by Gunnar Holmberg. in rhythm, scooting up in the pocket, delivering the football. It's interesting, to Taylor's point, you're getting some QB action.
Yeah, this is Moore again. Yeah, with Holmberg on the field and Moore trying to go to work, and he will pick up a yard to the 34 and pay the price on the back end with DJ Taylor, the linebacker, cutting in. Also Malik Mustafa.
Just quickly back to what I was saying about Sam Hartman. Lyle Hemphill told us that Sam Hartman could go blindfolded, take the snap, and know where to go with the football. I thought that was pretty impressive. I'd love to see that.
Maybe our next visit.
Right.
Here is Durant, big seam, flag thrown as Mateo Durant, and the ball got knocked loose. And it's recovered by the Deacons. Travion Red comes up with the fumble after it was jarred loose by Gavin Holmes. Holmes raked it out of there. Now we'll check the flag, but if this is on Duke, it'll stand as a fumble.
Holding. Offense.
There you go.
Number 88. That penalty declined. First down. Wake Forest.
Duke coming into this game was tied for worst in the league in terms of turnovers lost, something that had been familiar to Duke fans from years past. It's a great job down the field of raking at the football by Gavin Holmes, not giving up on the play, getting the ball out, creating the turnover for his offense. One of the keys, Wes, was play clean. For the most part, the penalties have been on Wake Forest side, but the turnovers have gone against Duke.
Justice Ellison into the ball game for the first time today at the running back spot. So we've seen all three of the backs. And Ellison, the freshman from Ashburn, Virginia, a couple of yards. There's a look. 5'10", 204. He's had 10 carries in the last two ball games for just under 80 yards. That ball got batted down at the line of scrimmage, and that was handled by big Dwayne Carter. You look around this defense, Roddy. Dwayne Carter in the ACC in terms of interior defensive lineman is impacting the game about as good as anybody in this league.
He's powerful, pressing the pocket, pushing offensive linemen back week in and week out.
Yep. Hartman pumps, goes. What a catch. A.T. Perry, if it stands at the 48. That is some kind of catch against Leonard Johnson.
Sam Hartman once again in rhythm, delivers it. Oh, A.T. It's good on Sundays, A.T.
Wait a second, is it good on Monday?
Oh, it's good on Monday. It's good every day of the week, honestly.
Little wide receiver U for A.T. Perry, huh?
There you go.
Here's Hartman looking for Donald Stewart, who makes the catch. Back to back, Roddy.
We've seen a few of them here today. I know your phone. Let me look at your phone. I'm sure it's lighting up in the text chain about wide receiver U. That one a great throw. Do we have Dime City or something like that? Because Sam Hartman is a resident there if we've got that.
Back-to-back throws by Hartman. Wake in business again. Hartman looks, throws. That is Keyshawn Williams collecting at the 16 with Alexander. And a flag on the field here with 7:29 to go in the first half.
Personal foul. Illegal hands to the face. Number 59. Defense. Half the distance to the goal. Automatic. First down.
Wes, in talking about this game before, you knew Duke was going to have to play as well as they could.
Right.
As clean as they could to be in this game with Wake Forest. And let's just say on the eve of Halloween, it's been a frightening start for the Duke Blue Devils. And it's about to get scarier if Wake's able to put the ball in the end zone.
Mm-hmm. First and goal at the 8 following the penalty. Ellison stays in the game with Hartman. And it is Justice Ellison. And he will dig to about the 3. And that's where Duke with Mausi making the stop, the linebacker. Hartman now 13 of 19 for 200 yards. And Roddy in the process, 200 yards moves him to 5th all time in passing yardage at Wake Forest. Here's Hartman. Quick throw, end zone. Perry almost flagged that down one-handed against Leonard Johnson. And a flag on Leonard Johnson.
Yeah, anytime the jersey's hanging off the shoulder pad on a pass play, it's probably going to go against you. Although, I mean, you could call that.
There's no foul for pass interference.
There you go.
Third down.
I was just about to say, you could have called that both ways because A.T. Perry's stiff-arming Leonard Johnson as Leonard Johnson's pulling the shoulder pad of Perry. Leonard Johnson, the call, the flag gets waved off. He's still legislating to the referee. Hey, that should have been offensive pass interference.
Yep. Here's Hartman moving right. Quick throw, touchdown. Keyshawn Williams in the end zone for the second time this year.
You've got Donald Stewart to the outside, the hesitation by Williams. And again, it's the timing. It's the fact that by the time Williams is able to break, Stewart's right there, so the defender has to make a quick choice. He really doesn't have a choice. You go over the top as a touchdown, you go underneath as a touchdown. The timing of these routes for Wake Forest, it's almost surgical precision that they run on.
8 plays, 69 yards. Skiba's kick is good. Sam Hartman has thrown for 2 and run for 2 in this first half in Winston-Salem. Well, 28-0 our score. You see Duke is 1 of 3 on 4th down, and 2 of those were in plus territory, Roddy. Sam Hartman's thrown for 2, run for 2. Wake scored touchdowns on 4 of 5 possessions. By the way, Hartman in the game now has moved past Gary Schofield and Mike Elkins.
Wow.
Part of the quarterbacking Elkins of the ACC. Older brother Rod was the quarterback at Carolina the last time they won the ACC championship, 1980. Mike was a few years later signal caller for Al Grove and some Deacon teams here in Winston-Salem. And then of note, Mateo Durant's gone into 6th all-time on Duke's rushing list as he comes back on the field. Quick reminder to you tonight after Louisville, NC State. You know what you get, don't you, Roddy?
Huddle after dark, baby.
Huddle after dark is right. Jordan Cornette, Coach Rick, E.J. Manuel pulling double duty today.
E.J. Manuel will be back from doing raps on E2.
Eric McLean, all 8 games come into focus.
Got a lot of work, 8 games tonight. Got a lot of work to do.
Guys will be there late with no socks on. Ball at the 25 for the Blue Devils, who need something offensively here. And a yard straight ahead for Durant. By the way, if you're just dialing into the Week 9 of the ACC, we've already got one upset for you.
Yep.
Miami led early and often today at Heinz Field and won 38-34 on Pittsburgh, handing the Panthers their first league loss, which brings Virginia, who plays later tonight out in Provo non-conference style, back into fold in the Coastal. And what a play behind the line there. Kendron Wayman taking down Mateo Durant. Look at this play.
Yeah, just following the puller across makes the play. But this time of year, I mean, you mentioned Virginia back in it in the Coastal. The Coastal providing us with all of the excitement and uncertainty that we are used to. Here's
Holmberg, and he'll be pulled down. Jasir Taylor off the blitz from the corner spot. And Duke is dismissed in 3 snaps, Roddy.
The formula for Duke from here on, I mean, you're going to have to get some big plays. They've been able to drive the ball down the field, stalled a couple times in the red zone, as we said, but without those big plays and some fortune, you're not going to track down this Wake team. This 3 and out, and I mean, you stopped Wake once on the offensive side of the ball. It's starting to feel a lot like it did a couple weeks ago against Virginia.
Taylor Morin is 2nd in the ACC and 11th nationally in punt return average. And here's Porter Wilson driving it to the 25, and nothing doing there. Stinson did a great job covering that punt for the Blue Devils. Jasir Taylor gets to Gunnar Holmberg. Wake gets the ball back in a big lead. Tuesday night, more basketball previews, this time the ladies' side. Kelsey Riggs with KG, Kelly Gramlich's there, Coach McGraw. They'll give you all 15 teams, get you ready for the season, by the way, Roddy, that starts a week from Tuesday.
Wow.
In the Atlantic Coast
season?
Yes, sir.
What?
Yes, sir, a week from Tuesday.
Where'd the time go?
We'll be hooping. Here's Hartman. Deacons with a 28-0 lead, and he put one in a tight window, and a flag is going to be thrown here against Christian Rory. I think a late hit on the quarterback.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, high hit, number 99, defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Seen this called a lot this year, Wes. Anytime you reach up that hand and try and bat the ball down, guys are coming down to the head or the face of the quarterback, and that's what Rory gets called for there.
Christian says no, but I'll tell you the one thing Wake doesn't need is penalty yardage to help them out.
Yeah, help. They certainly don't need that.
Averaging 9 yards a play, and that is Turner across midfield and finally shoved out of bounds into the Duke bench. So Sam Hartman, who has had quite a first half, 2 passes for scores, 2 runs for scores, trying to throw one more log on the fire here before halftime. Don't forget, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on ESPN, the unveiling of the initial college football playoff top 25.
Massive question. Where will Wake Forest be? I think they got a shot to be top 10, to be honest with you.
Hartman looping downfield. It's caught. Jamal Banks inside the 10. The 6'4" freshman from Washington's 3rd career reception.
And the Wake Forest receivers are going to be, Coach, let me get one. Let me get a one-on-one down the field. He's up against Leonard Johnson, stems him to the outside, runs the post, goes up and gets it. And again, it doesn't matter who's in the game. When the ball's in the air, these Wake Forest receivers are so good at coming down with it. From Roberson, Morin, Perry. And there you saw Banks getting in on it as well.
Yep. So Jamal Banks hauls it in. Here's Hartman now, 1st and goal at the Duke 11. And they'll hand the ball. Turner cannot get to the perimeter. Shaka Hayward. Outstanding play in space with Ben Fry also helping for the Blue Devils. Under 3 to go.
This Wake offensive line doesn't get enough credit, I think, Wes, because of the uniqueness of the offense and what they do. We talk a lot about the ride read, but Sam Hartman's delivering the ball from like 2 and 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You're not able to do that unless those guys up front are stout, unless those guys up front are getting just a little bit of push on that defensive line in both the run and pass game.
Here's Hartman. Wanted to load, now bails, and back shoulder throw. Banks a sliding catch at the 3. What in the world, Roddy?
How did he get that off?
We saw Tyler Van Dyke go sidearm a couple of weeks ago in Chapel Hill. Take me through this.
I'm serious. Like, he's rolling to his left. There's no space there between 2 defenders and delivers a pretty accurate ball. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah, I think that was a heat check, Wes. Like, that's a little bit of that, you know, I'm bringing it up. I'm just past half court. Let's throw it up, see if it'll work. Oh, it worked. Cool. I'm hot today.
Man, he's having a half, isn't he?
He is.
3rd and short. Can still get a first down without a touchdown. Hartman going right, being chased and dropped in the end zone. That was Turner, who couldn't hang on. Took a hit from Lewis, who was rolling through, Jeremiah Lewis. And Turner is down.
That's, Wes.
Yeah,
I think they're going to take a look at targeting for that one. I mean, I don't know if you would declare that forcible contact, although it is with the shoulder. He doesn't necessarily lower, but it's a defenseless player.
correct.
Being a receiver, it's a pretty hard hit. I would imagine they're going to take a look at this for targeting.
Well, they're checking on Christian Turner, which is the #1 concern for Dave Clawson, who's gone out to visit.
Let's take another look at it. I mean, the ball's on the ground. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it is targeting. He's just kind of running through. It's actually Turner's head. Turner's got his head down because he's going for the football. They're obviously looking at it upstairs. They look at everything. I'm not sure I'd even stop it for it because, look, the replay official takes a look at it, sees what we just saw, and can likely move on, especially after that last shot of it.
So Turner is up. Good thing for Wake Forest, they fully developed the running back depth with Christian Beal-Smith and, of course, Justice Ellison, who we saw briefly a moment ago.
And leaving the offense on the field.
Sure.
4th down, up 4 scores in the first half.
And Beal-Smith and Hartman will be in the backfield.
Honestly, it's a good opportunity to work on a 2-point play.
Whitehart, the tight end, off the formation to the right. And there goes Tom moving early. Zach Tom, the left tackle.
Ball start. Number 50. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
Well, and that brings us to the Nick Skiba show. Here comes the NCAA's career leader in field goal percentage to try and put one more on the board. He has hit 24 straight. His last miss was a 28-yarder October 2nd, 2020 against Campbell. You see, it's the longest active streak in FBS. 26 yards here from Skiba. Zach Murphy holds, and the kick is no good. It hit the left upright and bounds away for Nick Skiba.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Go ahead.
I mean, you didn't do anything to the kick, but you know, you could have said all that stuff after the kick. It would have made Wake Forest fans feel a lot better. Look, it's an eerie day. It's a day before Halloween. You know, I got to give you a hard time.
I just put it out there for you, man.
Poetic about how great he's been, and he has been great. That one miss won't define it. I mean,
unbelievable.
He's been great.
Yep. Deacon fans will hang that one on Old West.
Yep.
Here's Holmberg. He'll be sacked back at the 16. Tell you what, Rondell Bothroyd has played pretty well here in this first half. We haven't called his name much, but 40's been around the ball.
Watch him coming off the edge. Just pushes Graham Barton back into Gunnar Holmberg. You saw the power there. Number 40's a ball player.
Yep. Here's Holmberg looping it and overthrows Bobo on the far side. Gavin Holmes in coverage. Good to see him back out there. He got shaken up on the fumble he calls from Mateo Duran.
So here's a question, Wes. If Duke runs the ball here, does Wake call a timeout? I mean, they're going to have a little under a minute left. It's 3rd and 13. I think I would.
Here's Holmberg up in the pocket, thinking about running with it, and Masterson will pull him down, and Dave Clawson calls the timeout, Roddy, with under a minute to go.
Yeah, you got 3 left. I mean, this is situational football opportunities that you don't really get. You don't really get in real life, in game situations all that often. It's a really good play by Luke Masterson, tracking him down, and then watch Dave Clawson. Timeout, timeout, timeout. Give me that. Now they're going to get the ball back with somewhere around 50 seconds, couple timeouts. You're able to go into, hey, look, this is situational ball. This is where we win ball games.
Right. Let's
go into it against a defense that doesn't know what we're running, see how we can execute. These are valuable reps. May not mean a lot towards the result of the game in terms of winning and losing in this one, up 4 scores, but getting those repetitions are always valuable.
Yep. So here's Porter Wilson. Taylor Morin will drop back. He's the single safety for the Deacons, standing at the 34. One step, and Wilson hangs it high, and Morin will make a running catch of it at the 47. 49 seconds and 2 timeouts for Dave Clawson's team. Rodney, I want to go back to, we were talking about Miami's win at Pittsburgh. By the way, Tyler Van Dyke 426, Kenny Pickett threw for 519 today.
Defense was optional in Pittsburgh today.
Virginia Tech beat Georgia Tech by 9 in Atlanta. The Hokies almost 500 yards. Trey Turner 7 catches, 187 today for Justin Fuente's team. But the Miami win brings Virginia back into the mix now in the Coastal Division. And the Atlantic, we all know, may come down to Wake and NC State.
Yeah, Wake has the inside track in the Atlantic, and obviously with NC State being the closest follower, that game is massive down the stretch. You still got Clemson later on as well.
Here is Hartman gunning downfield. Morin, and it's broken up by Blackwell.
It's a good play downfield by Blackwell. Morin, not necessarily your prototypical outside receiver, listed at 5'10", and Blackwell does a good job of holding him to his outside and making the play with that inside hand.
Sam Hartman 17 of 26 for 255 to 8 different guys here in the first half. Pretty impressive.
2 yards rushing too. Dual threat, baby.
Here's Hartman and threw it just behind A.T. Perry on the crossing route. So 3rd and a full 10 with 39 seconds left.
I think it's really the first mix-up that we've seen between Hartman and one of his receivers.
Boy, A.T. Perry looks the part. The redshirt sophomore, Lake Worth, Florida, 6'5", 206, Roddy. 16 catches in his last 4 games coming in.
Let's not forget, Donovan Green was lost before the season started, and you know, you would think the world ended, but A.T. Perry stepped in and had as good a year, if not better than we expected.
Hartman on 3rd down, shoots it, and off the hands of Roberson, defended by Lewis. Jeremiah Lewis, the corner, going stride for stride with Ja'Cory Roberson.
And again, this was a situation for Wake to be able to get a 2-minute like drive in a ball game. And so when you talk about coaching points going forward, I can promise you that this coaching staff for Wake Forest is going to pull up this drive and say, guys, this isn't it. This isn't the execution that we want at the end of half. I don't care what the score is. You got to go out and perform.
So the snap, Mora puts it in play, and Blackwell going to let it hit, and it will get to the end zone. Deacons were trying to cover it, could not. So 23 seconds left, and Duke will have a chance here if they want to try and create something, and a couple timeouts.
You know, Wes, I had the opportunity on this past Thursday to have a discussion about this with Matt Austin.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's so often misunderstood by college players, and misunderstood by me as well, is once you catch the ball on a punt, it's dead right there.
Right.
So in that situation, whoever it is for Wake Forest can catch the ball in the field of play with their momentum going into the end zone and go into the end zone, and it's dead where they caught it. And so in that situation, you don't have to throw the ball back in the field of play. You don't have to make sure it stays there. As long as you have control of it, it's like a catch. It's down right there, then you go in the end zone, and it's fine because wherever you caught it, that's where the ball was down.
Handy information to have Matt Austin aside, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I had no clue of that, and we played it, but that's the rule. It's like a catch on those punts.
Mateo Duran had a carry. He's over 100 yards in this first half for the Blue Devils, 103 yards on 16 carries, but it's been all Sam Hartman and Wake Forest in the opening 30, Roddy.
Certainly has. 255 for Hartman through the air, 72 on the ground, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground. This Wake Forest offense, with the exception of just a couple of drives, has really been clicking on all cylinders.
Well, Dave Clawson has got to be pleased with the way his club has played here in the first 30 minutes in Winston-Salem, and he joins Taylor Davis.
Thank you, Wes. All right, Coach, a stellar first half for your quarterback, Sam Hartman. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 through the air. What can you say about the way he's leading your offense?
I mean, we're playing well. We're playing well on defense, too. I'm just upset we left points on the board there. We dropped an easy one in the touchdown, and then the best kicker in the country missed a chip shot field goal. But we're playing good on defense. We're getting off the field on 3rd down. We just got to come out and play a solid second half.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned. Jordan Cornette next from our ACC Network studios. Full review of the day, including an electric first half for number 10 in the black helmet. 28-0 Wake at the break. Well, second half getting ready to go at Truist Field, but the first half belonged to Sam Hartman. Roddy?
Yes, it absolutely did. It started early with a touchdown pass to Ja'Cory Roberson, and then he showed the wheels. Duke in man-to-man coverage, not accounting for the quarterback. He gets to the end zone once, not once, but twice. And then again through the air to Keyshawn Williams. Had another one in the end zone, dropped as well. So could have easily been 5 total touchdowns for Sam Hartman in the first half. But as is, these are the numbers. He's been absolutely fantastic in this Wake team, up 21-0, having left some points on the board as well in the first, on the field as well in the first half.
Dave Clawson was quick to add that with Taylor Davis going to the locker room. So Deacons will watch Duke handle it first. And if you're David Cutcliffe, you are 6 quarters now without any points, Roddy.
Yeah, and you just want something positive to go for you on either side of the football. I mean, this offense has been stuck in neutral when they've had their opportunities. They've missed them. A missed field goal last week, a missed 4th down conversion down near the goal line this week. Absolutely crushed them.
Freshman Samir Hagans will watch it bounce away. And the Blue Devils with Gunnar Holmberg starting from their 25, Taylor.
Well, guys, I spoke with Coach Cutcliffe coming out of the locker room at halftime. He was very candid with me. He said, that's the worst we've played in a very long time. He said specifically field position. He's disappointed with their lack of returns, really putting them in compromising positions there. He also said leverage in coverage. We're not getting any, and if we do, we're giving it up. Offensively, he wants to see more consistency and some RPOs. He said the opportunities are there. We've got to get it out of the quarterback's hands.
Taylor, hang tight real quick. Here's Holmberg, first play of the second half from scrimmage, and Luigi Villain bats it away. Guys, here, based on our conversations with the Duke coaches leading up to this game, Taylor, I suspect they are incredibly disappointed because they talked so much in the preparation about the edge and the attitude they wanted to play with here today. Here's second down. Durant trying to sweep to the edge, and Wake rallies to the football. Miles Fox and Kalen Carson combined. Taylor, I remember that being specific pieces of our conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, like we said in the open, there's a lot of familiarity, a lot of crossover with these two teams. And for this Duke team in particular, not with a road win on a 3-game losing streak, there was an intentionality heading into this week. You're just not seeing it yet.
And it's going to be 3 and out, Roddy, for Coach Cutcliffe's squad. Jack Wollaball, the center, I think may have gotten tripped up with Holmberg there.
Yeah, it's a disappointing start to the second half, and it's, you know, kind of more of the same. Missed opportunities for this Duke team. Here you come out of halftime, you're thinking, all right, we've got a good plan. We know we're going to come out with, you have negative plays to start, and then on third down, your quarterback's trying to escape. He trips over the feet of an offensive lineman.
Wobbly punt headed toward Morin. Whoa, what a collision at the 45. Tell you what, he took a big lick, and the Blue Devils had Brandon Johnson, a young freshman safety from just over west of Winston-Salem in Newton, North Carolina, on the coverage there. So now here comes Sam Hartman with 4 TDs in his pocket. And a 28-0 lead, Roddy.
And like I said, it probably should have been 5 touchdowns. Not probably, it should have been 5 touchdowns in the first half for Sam Hartman. Thing that you want to see from Wake, you're the 13th ranked team in the country, likely to be a top 10 team, very close, if not a top 10 team when the first rankings come out.
Hartman in trouble, and the Blue Devils get to him. R.J. Oben, who did not play in the first half, makes a huge play on the first snap of the second half.
We were told number 94 there on the right side of your screen was not going to play in the first half, but he's long and he's got some pass rush ability. Does a nice job there of getting to Sam Hartman. Wake Forest is looking to take a shot early on. Try and put this game further out of reach.
Oben with his 3rd sack of the year, and there's a quick throw from Hartman, and A.T. Perry back inside the sticks at the 48-yard line. It will be 3rd down and 7 for Wake Forest.
You know, I think A.T. Perry has really answered the bell of the physicality of these Duke receivers. He's used his strength to create some separation on some of those routes.
Here's a 3rd down for Hartman, and Duke bringing 5. Hartman going to cut it loose for Perry over the shoulder and caught inside the 20. 1st and 10 for Wake Forest.
This time, he doesn't use the strength. He uses the quickness off the line of scrimmage, the technique, holding his line and then falling away. It's a great throw by Sam Hartman, taking him towards the sideline, away from the defensive back, and a nice catch for A.T. Perry, who we were told, you know, kind of favors himself like one of those gas stations.
Well, and guess what? Christian Beal Smith scores standing standing in the end zone on the first play after it.
Look at the offensive line. Everybody latching on. A nice seal on the outside by Devontae Gordon on R.J. Oben. And it's a wide open lane for Christian Beal-Smith. Couple of catches to the guy who says he's always open to get down the field. And then Christian Beal-Smith, you could drive a truck through that hole, get in the end zone.
57 yards in 4 plays. CBS gets the touchdown on the ground, his 7th of the year. And the point after makes it 35-0. One is hard to handle, and he knew he was going in the end zone when he turned the corner. Big lead for the home team.
ESPN, home of the college football playoff. Run it.
Well, college football playoff. First iteration of the CFP poll comes your way Tuesday night on ESPN. I'll be interested to see where the old gold and black falls.
I will too, and you know, I've kind of been hinting at it a little bit today. I think Wake's got a pretty good shot to be in the top 10. I do. Michigan losing to Michigan State today. How far do they drop? Iowa losing. They'll be out of the top 10.
Whoa! Excuse me. Hagens got derailed on the play. Wake Forest crashed downfield. I want to think Jasheen Davis was the guy that lowered the boom there. They've got 2 number 30s listed. It was Marshall, I beg your pardon. The other number 30, Amani Marshall, a freshman from here in Winston-Salem, dropped the boom. There is the remaining schedule according to the Football Power Index. We'll come back to that in a moment, Roddy. I want some thoughts here.
Yep.
Here's Holmberg, first down throw, Bobo the catch, and Kalen Carson wrestling Jake Bobo after about a 5-yard gain.
Here's the thing about the FPI that, you know, people get frustrated with it and blast it.
I know someone in particular gets frustrated with it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Every morning at 7 a.m. here on ACC Network.
Pull up a chair.
Yeah, thank you. Boy, I appreciate you playing the game there.
Hear about FPI and how much he loves it.
Durant stopped shy of the 25. All right, so about FPI.
Well, in all seriousness, like you look at those numbers at North Carolina, first off, it's not a conference game, so it doesn't matter in terms of getting the conference championship. But there's things in there that are there all year. So preseason, rankings, preseason, the preseason inputs are still baked in there. Stuff like recruiting rankings and returning production. As you get a first down from Gunnar Holmberg. But the thing that it doesn't account for, number one, injuries. NC State ravaged on the defensive side of the football with injuries. That's not baked in there.
That'll be a big test tonight, by the way, against Louisville.
It absolutely will. And number two, it doesn't account for the fact that this is an experienced Wake ball club that's played in close games. So, to be honest with you, I think the better measure would be to ask Vegas. How would they see Wake Forest down the stretch? Because I would imagine against Carolina, they'll be favored. Against NC State, they'll likely be favored. Against Clemson, we'll see. I mean, Vegas hasn't quite figured Clemson out this year. But I'd imagine they've got a pretty good shot to be favored in the rest of those games.
I want to come back to you, though, about the committee. Not RPI, not FPI, not strength of schedule, not, Vegas. Yeah. I want to come to you about the committee here in a minute. Second down long, Holmberg shoots it. That's Harding to catch. Daryl Harding was a guy who was sidelined, and the ball popped out. The Deacons scramble for it. Does Wake have it, or did Duke recover? It looked like Van Lin, the Pitt transfer, might have fallen on it, and I believe he did. Daryl Harding, his first catch. He's another guy that missed the first half.
He does a nice job of securing it, and then just takes 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits.
Wow.
Eventually popped it out.
Mustafa has been around the ball a lot out of the Deacon secondary. Holmberg shoots it middle of the field. Dalmolin, the tight end, was the intended receiver. Okay, Roddy, back to the committee. You and I sat in that room in the mock situation a couple of years ago. We looked at all the kind of variables that go into sorting this out. I think one of the things about Wake Forest will be interesting with that committee is how do they get grouped?
Yeah.
Who are their peers in evaluating that pool of teams?
Yeah, well, it's going to be, so they kind of do it in groups of 3. It's going to be, you know, the Michigans, you know, those teams that are kind of sitting at the edge of the top 10. Even in Iowa will likely be in that conversation even after losing last week, or excuse me, this week. But the thing that's going to hurt Wake is you're going to get a review for targeting here. The thing that's going to hurt Wake is when you pull up those stats defensively, their defense is going to rank at the bottom of the teams being considered because of what you gave up to Army, what you gave up to Syracuse. So we'll see.
We step aside, under 10 to go into third, under review for a potential targeting next. Roddy, no targeting on the play.
Yeah, there was helmet to helmet contact, and the receiver was defenseless, but it was, in my opinion, nowhere near forcible. So
Gary Patterson and his crew clean up the paperwork, and here's Porter Wilson to punt it to Taylor Morin. Boy, Wilson hammers another one. Back to the 11. Boy, Morin guts there, Roddy. He makes the catch and then tried to advance it and gets nothing from a 55-yard punt by Porter Wilson. Take me through this, Roddy.
So the reason they stop it is because of what you're going to see. And you see DJ Taylor makes contact with the helmet of Dalmolin, Nicky Dalmolin, but there has to be forcible contact to the head or neck area. That contact was incidental. You got Taylor who's pulling up, who's not going to hit the receiver, so no targeting on the play. It's a good call.
So here is Hartman, 9:47 to go in this third period. Justice Ellison has come on. Saw him briefly. Hartman's got a 300-yard game for the 10th time in his career, by the way, on 19 of 30. 20th time in his career he has been over 200 yards. Today, by the way, is his 27th career start. But ironically, Roddy, it's his first against Duke.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, they didn't play obviously last year. He was hurt when he started his freshman year, and then there was the Jamie Newman year where Jamie started. So I would say he's pretty happy with his so far with his performance against the Blue Devils in his career.
First and 10, Ellison around the edge and flag down as Ellison takes off into Duke territory, out of bounds at the 30. I think it's coming back.
Holding, number 79, offense. Half the distance to the goal. Repeat, first down.
All right, so number 79, Sean McGinn. I mean, I guess that's a hold. He kind of had the outside. It prevented the defensive player from getting out there. So yeah, I'll give it to him. That's where it was. I don't have to agree with it or not.
How many times did you get called for holding?
Never, actually. I don't think I ever got a holding call on him. That was Orwin's thing. Orwin always got called.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was Orwin.
You're going to lay that on teammate Orwin Smith?
I didn't get called for it.
Here's Turner in the ball game, and look at this, same play. Turner, a shoulder fake, and into Duke territory. Wow. Nate Thompson saves the touchdown.
How about them going back to the well, though? You just go to the same split zone, and it's out the front door again, almost the exact same place. Wake Forest saying, all right, you couldn't stop it the first time, let's run it again.
And again, here's Turner dancing through and stopped at the Blue Devil 40 after the career-long run for Christian Turner, the Michigan transfer. Shaka Hayward, the stop there.
Run it again. I mean, line up, almost the exact same formation, inside zone with the tight end coming across, seal the backside, doesn't need to, stays front side, he's able to cut it up, get a good game.
Hartman rips it. That ball's caught. Jamal Banks, another one, down to the Blue Devil 26-yard line. Wake Forest has 7 plays, Roddy, over 30 yards today.
Humming. I mean, you know, it's not quite the explosive performance that we saw last week, and that they've almost equaled the length of time that they were on the field in that entire Army game, and it hasn't been sharp the entire time, but they have moved the ball almost at will today.
Hartman, a bit of a change, and here is Ellison, and he will push it to about the 23. David Cutcliffe and Dave Clawson. Great respect for these two programs, Roddy. We talked about it during the week, visiting with each coach. Here's Hartman, and a sack. And that time, Mausi fights his way through for the second time they've gotten to Hartman here in the third quarter. There's Coach Cut.
Duke creates the pressure and is able to bring down Hartman, something that they haven't been able to do a lot in this game. But 3rd and longs, getting off the field has been tough for this Duke defense today. Wake 8 of 11 on 3rd downs so far.
A dozen to go for the first. That's Keyshawn Williams in motion. Hartman guns it. Williams the catch, and he will have the first down at the 15. Lummy Young the tackle, and he is slow to his feet.
This is a team that goes with so much man-to-man coverage. When they go to zone, there's sometimes just not the feel from that second level. There's a lot of open spots in the middle of the field. There they go to it. Wake Forest is able to find it, convert a 3rd and long.
Here's Hartman with time. Back throw, and tried to get it to Stewart. Boy, pretty good play by Blackwell in coverage.
I thought he might have gotten there a little bit early, but nonetheless was blanketed all over. Good coverage downfield. Sam Hartman actually had more time in the pocket than he thought he did. Yeah, ball behind Stewart anyway, so it doesn't matter.
2nd and the full 10. Ellison gets 5, 7, 8 yards to the 7. Nicely done by Justice Ellison. Aeneas Peoples, the defensive tackle, makes the play.
Started sort of putting his head down and powering forward. Aeneas Peoples a little banged up on the play, but that offensive line created a lot of surge on that play.
Timeout on the field as Peoples is, looks like it might be a cramp. Let's hope that's what it is at least. You could shake those off and get right back to work. Don't forget, coming up next, 7:30 Eastern tonight, kickoff over in Raleigh. ACC Network Primetime presented by Geico. Dave O'Brien, Tim Hasselback, Kelsey Riggs standing by for Louisville and NC State.
You know, that one's going to be really interesting. Peyton Wilson out, Isaiah Moore out. There's 2 linebackers in the middle. How do they contain Malik Cunningham? And that is going to be absolutely fascinating because we saw him a week ago. He's playing at a really, really high level.
Tanner Engel tonight is a major piece.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Especially when they do those naked boots. How do they contain him from that perspective? But the outside zone stuff that Louisville runs really puts a lot of pressure on your run fits.
Homecoming game for Travion Cooley, by the way, who had a career high 70-some yards the other night for Louisville in the win against Boston College. You see the numbers on Cunningham. NC State's been stingy on defense. If the Wolfpack wants to stay in the shadows of Wake Forest, Roddy, after the loss at Miami, you have to win the ball game to keep working toward that setup game.
Every game is massive for NC State going down or as they approach that Wake Forest game and that Wake Forest game and defensively them rebounding and offensively, you know, they've kind of been up and down this year. They certainly haven't been as explosive as I thought they could possibly be. Haven't gotten quite as much production from the running back position as I thought that they would have coming into the year. You know, against Miami, it seemed like they were pretty predictable, running left a lot. Miami anticipated that. Louisville, on the other hand, has been susceptible on defense some. So I'm excited about that game. Excited to see how both teams respond. Louisville starting to play well, and NC State really needs to rebound.
All right, quick check of the standings here. Let's take you to the Atlantic. You see where the Wake State thing is kind of in the balance.
Those two teams still have to play each other.
And Clemson, by the way, who leads Florida State at last check, right?
Yep.
Tigers,
Not out
Louisville,
of it.
Not out of it.
Not out
Florida
of it.
State trying to win again. Meanwhile, I'd like to welcome you to Coastal Chaos again.
The
right?
big winners of the weekend.
Virginia.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Virginia Cavaliers.
Had to go all the way to Utah to get in the game.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, Pitt losing to Miami. Virginia's still to play Pitt. They win that game, they're in the ACC championship because they already have a win over really all the teams that are chasing them.
Wake Forest came into the ball game today, 13 of their last 22 on third down. They are 9 of 12 today. Talk about scary. On the eve of Halloween, this Deacon offense is frightening. Sam Hartman. And the Deacs waiting.
Clock running, plenty of time on the play clock.
Yeah. They're just kind of taking their time with the play clock winding and the third quarter clock winding.
Yeah, shorten the game a little bit.
3rd and 2. Hartman against pressure and overthrows Keyshawn Williams with Stinson covering for the Blue Devils. And Nick Skiba will come on, try and start a new streak.
Yeah, that pressure didn't get to Sam Hartman in the sense of hitting him or sacking him, but the pressure forced the high throw, not able to follow through and to try and throw it over some bodies, and it sailed high.
26 yards for Skiba.
Same distance as earlier.
2 less.
Oh, okay.
And less fanfare before the kick. Skiba's try, perfect. 38-0 Wake Forest. 5 minutes to go in the third in Winston. $38-0 to score here in Winston-Salem. Nick Skiba has added the field goal, his 13th of the year. And the Deacons continue to add to the tally on Duke. Morris kick, and Higgins will step back into the end zone. Duke will scrimmage from its 25.
Duke's got to get some points on the board. I mean, we're approaching
7
7
quarters.
straight quarters of being held scoreless. Not touchdownless, scoreless. Now some of that's a missed field goal in the Virginia game, going for it down in the red zone on 4th down in this Wake Forest game. But golly, when you're not scoring points on offense, it is demoralizing for your team.
David Cutcliffe's team has kind of hit a drought. Only 4 touchdowns in their last 15 quarters, Roddy. And closing in on 7 quarters straight without a score. Winless in the league at 0-3 off a bye week following losses to Georgia Tech and Virginia. And there is Durant being taken down at the 28-yard line. Mateo Durant's delivered, though, Taylor. He's got more than 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was thinking about what you just said, how demoralizing it is at this point. And Coach Cutcliffe told us this week, it's not a mental issue. It's not a confidence issue. It's been physical. They went back to fundamentals this week, footwork, and hoping that changes the game. What he's looking at right now, junction points, like I said at halftime, leverage. I mean, the physical aspect of this team, especially when you look at the athletes that Duke always gets, it's just not showing itself on the field.
No. And Roddy, at least people perplexed, right?
And look, I love Coach Cut and respect his football opinion as much as anybody. He knows this team much better than I do, but I would argue it is a mental thing as well. I mean, the penalties, the overall mistakes, the sloppiness that they've played with. The turnovers, that's a physical, I mean, that's a mental thing. That's an attitude.
Here's the punt for Morin. And he'll fair catch that one right around the 20-yard line. Hey, don't forget the ACC Network's your home for fall championships. Tomorrow we start coverage of the women's soccer. First round from Cary on the ladies' side. And then Wednesday night we pick up coverage of the men's soccer first round, 6 and 8 o'clock, both Sunday and Wednesday on the pitch. And then field hockey quarterfinals Thursday on campus. All right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app.
How much of the fanfare around the cross country championships you catch yesterday? You missed out on a big show with your name on it.
I saw. I heard about the reports of the cart driver out amongst them, as they say.
Passing out Halloween candy?
Apparently. By the way, Eric McLean deserves accolades for being a part of that fray yesterday, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Excellent camera work by Mac.
Oh, yeah. Operating with the iPhone FaceTime hookup. My partner in crime was, in fact, the cart rider for the cross-country championships, as he said he would be a year and a half ago.
I don't know if I've ever seen someone happier than when Pac was driving around on that golf cart.
And he had to go to South Bend to do it. By the way, congratulations to NC State's women and to Notre Dame's men on capturing those championships. There's a catch, and Roberson back in the game. And this is all you want to see from number 5 against Jalen Alexander for 19.
Such a tough matchup in the slot. A guy that's 6'1" with excellent ball skills, goes up in the air, uses his body to shield Alexander away from the football, makes the catch. Sam Hartman taking a little bit of a push there at the end, still able to deliver the football accurately.
So Ja'Cory Roberson with another big catch. First and 10 to 39, final 2:20 of the third. Turner. And a yard, maybe 2.
Number 0, Christian Turner with
Gary Smith, the tackle. So at the 41, it'll be second down and 8.
You know, Taylor mentioned the athletes that Duke has been getting in the Duke team, and talking to Wake Forest, they stress the fact that, look, Duke's got a lot of guys that we wanted. They got a lot of guys that we recruited. And so for Wake to come out and perform the way they did, their team certainly has listened to the warnings that their coach put out there.
Turner trying to get to the corner again. Blue Devils do a good job, and boy, Hayward polished it off after Jeremiah Lewis set him up.
Chaka Hayward, one of those guys that looks the part, certainly has a future at the next level.
Also got a look here at young guy Ahmad Craig, another former Buford Wolf from outside of Atlanta making the play.
And one of the great programs in the Atlanta area.
The list is long and distinguished at the next level from Buford.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it is. Another third down. Wake's been so good here. Looking for those matchups, find him. You got A.T. Perry and Ja'Cory Roberson at the bottom, Taylor Morin to the top.
There's a Hartman lob, and this is A.T. Perry at the 20 and pulled out of bounds by Johnson.
It's just been too easy for A.T. Perry. Wins at the line of scrimmage, get that hand off me. A little shot to the shoulder of Leonard Johnson, and then it's all speed down the field. It's a great job on the route, especially when he's about to create that separation. Jam that arm into the shoulder of the defensive back, stuns him. That's how you get wide open. That's coaching, that's repetition, that's practice, that's understanding. Those are his ninja moves, Wes.
Let me tell you, we're going to go to quarter 4 on another great catch from A.T. Perry. And you can believe the hype about number 9.
Absolutely.
Number 13, Number 13 is rolling on homecoming Saturday in Winston-Salem. 4th is next. 38-0. We go to the fourth at Truist Field in Winston-Salem with Roddy Jones, Taylor Davis, Wes Durham, David Harris, our producer, Nick Young, our director. Great ACC Network coverage. And we're 1st and 10 at the Blue Devil 19 for slinging Sam Hartman. Here is Hartman rolling, throwing, and caught. Moran inside the 10 to the 5, and that is a Wake Forest touchdown.
Taylor Moran does such a good job on this of leaning into the defender as he gets to the top of his stem and then breaks away, creating that separation. Once again, Sam Hartman with the timing, able to get away from Jeremiah Lewis, up the field into the end zone. Wake Forest touchdown, and they keep rolling.
19-yard throw. Skiba for the point. 45-0. We are 8 seconds old in quarter 4 in Winston-Salem and number 13 in high gear.
Dr. Pepper Fansville studio update. Florida State Clemson midway through
the strip sack and the scoop and score. Somebody find EMAC and make sure that he's all right. And then he's got the Florida State stuff. Not too far, not too close, not too far, you know.
My buddy Chuck Smith calls that the big kahuna.
Yeah.
There'll be no return by the Blue Devils.
Strip sack, scoop, score. That's about as good as it gets for a defense.
That's why it's called the big kahuna.
Love that.
Yeah.
How about that game?
How about that guy?
Yeah. Look, defensive player of the year wise in the league, he's got to be up near the top. I think Cody Roscoe from Syracuse. You got to. He's obviously.
People need to look at Roscoe, don't they?
Look at Cody Roscoe from Syracuse and what he's doing. His ability to create pressure, his ability to push the pocket has been impressive all season. As Riley Leonard looks like he's going to take over at quarterback for Duke.
By the way, Syracuse leading Boston College, by the way, at the Dome late in the fourth. Here goes Riley Leonard out the back door. And boy, he got chopped down. Kalen Carson or Zion Keith. That's 28. That is Zion Keith. Redshirt sophomore makes the play. Taylor, Deacons have subbed some guys around defensively.
Well, guys, you know, down here on the sideline, I've actually noticed, I would describe it as a sigh of relief for this Wake defense. I mean, we talked with the coaching staff, and they were candid about the fact that that Army game last week was not their best showing defensively. We talk a lot about this Wake offense, but this defense really wanted to step up today. Coach Hemphill told us a lot of the guys individually came into his office this week saying, hey, we're turning the page. We're going to get ready for Duke. They're all very communicative down here on the sideline, even with a very comfortable lead. They wanted to right that wrong today.
Lyle Hemphill going to work. He's even got the get-back guy with the clutch on the jacket. Here's Leonard across the middle, offline. He was looking for Eli Pancol, and Duke will punt it.
It was a great point by Taylor on that Wake defense, and the sigh of relief portion of it. This is a defense that a week ago, 3 players over 90 yards rushing for Army. Week before that, Sean Tucker had 153, Garrett Schrader 178 on the ground. Today, they've only allowed 123 yards on the ground, 233 yards overall against a Duke offense that can be dangerous.
Jackson Hensley, Pikeville, Kentucky, deep to return, and not Wilson's best effort, but we got a flag thrown in late, and the ball is down at the 26, but the marker came from over in front of the Wake Forest bench. I have no idea. I mean, literally other side of the field from where the ball was.
During the kick, holding, number 29, return team. That penalty will be enforced 10 yards from the end of the kick. First down.
All right, that'll get us to break. A minute old in quarter 4. Wake Forest in control on Duke.
I've taken the handoff from West, pressed the line of scrimmage, gotten out the backside. Now we're going to take a look at our Arby's running back spotlight. And it has to be. Oh, Lord. See, I told you. Press the hole. Get over. All right. Let's go. Had no idea that was coming. Wes, I thought you should have told me. You should have set me up for this.
You were the one that grabbed the card and said you wanted to read the
I thought we were going to go to a good running back. I mean, you guys just threw up pictures of me. I was getting ready to talk about Christian Beal-Smith and Christian Turner and Sam Hartman. I wanted Sam Hartman on that.
Sam Hartman has been replaced by Michael Kern, his 9th career appearance.
Sorry to America. You
as the Deacons start to move the ball, and Quentin Cooley from Southern Nash High School, Julius Pepper's alma mater, gets his first carry, his 8th of the year. There is Michael Kern, 19 of 33 in his career, 303 yards and a touchdown 2 years ago against mighty Elon for Michael Kern.
That one hurt, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
45-0. Wake Forest is kind of set the starters to the side here, Roddy. I see a couple different guys in there in the offensive line. Some changes have been made. Luke Pettibon's come in at center. He's a freshman. And that is Cooley trying to get to the edge. Tackled by Isaiah Fisher-Smith, sophomore from over in Greensboro for the Blue Devils.
You got Nick Sharp out there at right tackle.
Yep.
CJ Omonis there at right guard. You already mentioned the center position. Let's see, get some other numbers there for you. 68.
That is Thomas Grippo.
Thomas Grippo there at left guard.
And Cameron Height has come in at tight end.
Well, since we're calling out the backup offensive line, I gotta give a shout out to the starters. Zach Tom at left tackle, Sean McGinn at left guard, Michael Juergens at center, Lloyd Nagasam Naya at right guard, Devontae Gordon. Those guys were excellent today.
There's a throw and a catch. That's Cameron Height, and the ball popped loose, and it is Duke's ball on the turnover. Blue Devils recover it. And the recovery was made by Tony Davis in the secondary.
Fumble recovery by Duke. 1st and 10.
So it looked like Hyde had made the catch here. And then when he worked his way upfield, it got punched out by Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith. Yeah, I mean, you got to secure the football there, big fella. Cameron
that will
Hyde.
not make the 8th-year coach of the Deacons happy at all.
No, it will not. I mean, look. Smith puts his hand on the football, but it's a pretty weak punch. All in all, you got to secure the ball.
Best starting spot of the day for the Blue Devils. And here is Leonard trying to keep it to the boundary side and helped out of bounds. Taylor, look out now. Coming your way. Marker down.
She's got the Concords on. She can get out of the way.
Holding. 63. Offense.
Penalty call.
10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Jacob Monk.
63. Offense.
I think, was that play running right at Taylor, by the way?
It was, yep. She's down there around the 10-yard line.
First down now in the full 20. Here's Leonard, a quick throw, and off the hands of Robertson. Incomplete. All right, Taylor, will you lock it down on the boundary side, please?
I mean, look, you got to keep your head on a swivel when you're working the sidelines around here. Look, at pregame, I got hit by a punt, so you just always got to be careful around here.
It's on her Instagram. It's true.
It's true.
She was filming and watching when the phone got hit. Yeah.
The ball.
Good timing. Good timing.
That made the IG, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Up on the gram. Great. Live action. Here's Leonard after the holding call, fighting to the 22. By the way, I noted to Roddy before the ball game, it looked a little tight in terms of inventory and space to move around down there. I was concerned about a play coming that way early in the ball game.
Yeah, the sidelines are definitely not spacious, especially over on the Duke side, but I've met a few of them personally, so, everyone's friendly down here.
That's good. Leonard shoots it beyond the reach of the intended receiver, and that was Hagans.
And I think if you're Duke, you take the points. I mean, you don't want to go out of this game with another goose egg. You've had some kicking woes here recently.
Good point.
Go ahead and line up and kick it. Looks like Charlie Ham's going to be back out there to kick the football.
Yep. So Charlie Ham who gave way 2 weeks ago to Matt Allswanger, who missed a 25-yarder at Virginia. This will be a 40-yarder. Ham on the year is 7 of 11, his longest 50 against Northwestern, to get the Blue Devils on the board. The kick is no good. Pulled it left.
When it rains, it pours.
Flag down. 11:27 to go here in the fourth. 45-0. And the Deacon student section loves it. But let's check the marker with Gary Patterson.
After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 95, Wake Forest. It'd be first down for Wake Forest after half the distance enforcement. First and 10. That is number 95's first unsportsmanlike.
Away we go, back after this. Pretty good day for number 10 in the black jersey, Roddy.
Pretty good couple of weeks.
Oh, look at the numbers. 115 points.
All right, I'm going to do the math.
650. No, 1250.
Come on, man.
1250.
Well, I'm doing the math.
1250.
Oh, come on.
Everybody makes fun of my math, but I got that.
I know you.
1250. By the way, Richard Simmons, our abled statistician, 1,178 games in Wake Forest history, including today.
Wow. Did he count all those?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Prior to last week, only 8 times in history had Wake had 600 or more yards in a game.
They're going to flirt with 700 today.
And now they're back-to-back weeks, Roddy.
It's incredible. Look, it's some of it's the way things have gone on the perimeter with them throwing the ball down the field, being able to create explosive plays. This Wake offense is humming, and it's playing with incredible confidence, and they've left points on the field today. They missed a field goal. They dropped a touchdown pass. Like this is a Wake team that offensively is there.
Right.
The question down the stretch is on the other side of the football. How good can they be defensively? And today was a big response to that question that arose the past couple of weeks, past couple of games against Army, and before that against Syracuse.
Yeah, you're right. I think they're a fascinating study for the rest of the country, just because they're coming from nowhere in terms of the national landscape.
Well, you know, I kind of refuse to have the college football playoff conversation with Wake Forest, because this is a team, they're declaring the pass incomplete.
Right.
This is a team that's sitting here with the chance to have a special season.
Correct.
Framing college football playoff the way we do, in my opinion, would take away from it if they didn't get there. Like, if Wake loses one game and doesn't make the college football playoff and is an ACC champion, that's an incredible season for Dave Clawson, for any school.
Right.
But Florida State and Clemson have had a stranglehold on this league for so long. Whoever wins the ACC, if it's not Clemson, or I guess you could say if not Florida State, because technically they're not eliminated, but they are really going to enjoy it and relish that opportunity.
Cooley banging away. And the freshman from Bailey, North Carolina, who had only 7 carries on the season, getting a chance to close the show here, 3rd and 5. And here's the scary part about this team. They are old, but they're not old as in leaving.
Yeah.
They're old as in like redshirt sophomore old.
Yeah.
Redshirt junior old, right?
This thing at Wake Forest is built to last.
Yeah.
And that is a credit to the vision and the discipline of Dave Clawson and this coaching staff.
There's going to be an incomplete pass. It looked like Jamal Banks was hand fighting with Dominic Long over in front of the Blue Devil bench, and thought for a moment we were going to get a flag, and we didn't.
There's a lot of physicality and going back and forth. Yeah, it's probably pass interference. It probably is. but before we get off the topic of this thing built to last, Wes, you know, Dave Clawson early on redshirted guys that could help him so that they could get old, stay old, especially the positions that they needed.
Right.
But John Curry, the athletic director, and the support staff have done an excellent job of infusing financial support in this program. They're going to have spent over $100 million on athletics facilities when their latest project is complete.
Well, you're right about that. We will touch on it when we come back. A huge announcement yesterday off the field concerning Wake Forest football when we continue from Winston-Salem in a moment.
Great guest list for the Mannings tonight.
You've reached Peyton and Eli. Leave a message.
Hey guys, it's Bill. I'd love to come on and inject some energy into the megacast. Call me back. Watch Peyton and Eli. You never know who'll drop by.
Monday night's armchair companion for television is David Cutcliffe's good work.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
Mentored both the Manning brothers, Daniel Jones, obviously.
Yep, Riley Leonard getting some reps here as we get to the 47-yard line on the run. And tell you what, nobody has seen it and been through it and is able to process it in the right way and respect the game and the discipline it takes to do what it takes to be successful, quite like David Cutcliffe has. I mean, when you think about not just Peyton and Eli, I mean, there are guys like Heath Schuler. I mean, Thad Lewis, right? Sean Renfrey.
Anthony Boone.
Yeah. All sorts of guys that have come through the Cutcliffe school.
Yeah, and look, David Cutcliffe's programs have always done things the right way, and it's not going their way right now. And, you know, it hasn't really for a couple of years. That doesn't change the impact that he's had. Taylor and I had a good conversation with him before the field, or before the game on the field, just about that. About, hey, look, he's in coaching for the right reasons, and those reasons are more than football. And you know, we always enjoy our visits with Coach Cudd.
Yep.
Certainly hoped for them to have success because you know he's one of our favorites.
There's a slant route. Calhoun loose, working to the backside. Jalen Calhoun down at the 1-yard line. And the Blue Devils had their best scoring threat of the day with 7.5 to play.
So you got to put the ball in the end zone now. I mean, you got to get points. Get off the schneid. This is what makes Jalen Calhoun so dangerous. And like I said, Wes, you know, there's so many times you're wondering, why isn't 5 getting the ball more?
Riley Leonard, touchdown for Duke. With 7:17 to go. A 2-yard run for Leonard and his first collegiate score.
Was Riley Leonard on the ground? The speed, the power, was that on the scouting report? I'm not sure we got that on the scouting report. Do you have that on the scouting report?
Tell you what, Leonard punched it right in. 5 plays, 69 yards in 1:45.
And a good delivery to Jalen Calhoun on that long play as well.
Yep. And the point by Charlie Ham is good, and the Blue Devils on the board. Coke Zero Sugar and Wendy's, proud supporters of college football, the best combo ever.
See, I don't know. Again, we had this discussion last week. I mean, yeah, sure, Coke Zero is good to drink with your fries, but I'm telling you, go with the Frosty.
To dip the fries in?
Yeah.
No, not this week. Sorry.
Come on, man. I mean, I'm telling you. Here, we'll do it next week. I'll take you to Wendy's. We'll get you the fries.
And the Frosty.
We'll get you the chocolate Frosty.
And we dip it in.
We'll dip it in there.
All right.
There you go.
The hot and crispy fries are legit now.
Yeah, and then I get the Frosty off the dollar menu.
There we go.
Although inflation, I think, has crept in. I think it's like $1.29 now.
Taylor, do you get the Frosty and the fries?
Okay, no, I don't like to mix hot and cold like that, but this is week 2 that we've had this debate on the air, fellas, and I just think that we really need to make an effort to fix that.
Yeah.
And also, you two were chowing down on some peach cobbler while we were here, so I don't know why you're talking about Frosties.
Great point, yeah.
Roddy went to...
Wes took me to the famed Lexington barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I heard great things.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I've been inducted in a way, or brought in a way, ACC food that I hadn't in the past. Lexington barbecue. We hit Putters.
We did. Hey,
Salem.
let me thank Matt and the guys at Putters last night.
Took care of us.
Putters was nice. We had a good time. By the way, Jacory Roberson, Luke Masterson, Nick Skiba, all recommended putters.
Those guys popping up on Packer and Durham, their recommendations did not get let down.
Chris Mack, by the way, the Louisville coach, said in his days as an assistant here, it was the chicken teriyaki salad he would go for at Putters. By the way, Syracuse 21, Boston College 6. That's now a final. Clemson has gotten a couple of Will Shipley touchdowns to lead Florida State. Roddy, in the Syracuse game, Sean Tucker. Want to guess how many yards today?
Well, you updated me at like 120, and that was in what, the first half or something like that?
Yeah,
How many did you go for?
Sean Tucker finished with 207 today.
You know, we've kind of written off the ACC Player of the Year conversation, or we did. Like, if Kenny Pickett keeps playing like this, it's going to be Kenny Pickett. But Brennan Armstrong and Sean Tucker.
Whoa. I'd add 10 in the black helmet.
And Sam Hartman. There we go. Need to be in the conversation. Absolutely. And look, it's not to take away from what Kenny's done this year. He's been incredible.
Kenny Pickett threw for 500 yards today.
This week. And it's no slight to him. But Brennan Armstrong has been fantastic. You've seen what Sam Hartman's done the past couple of weeks. And I'm not sure Sean Tucker hadn't been the best player in the league. Syracuse is now 1 win away from bowl eligibility.
Tell you. Here is Cooley again on a second down play. It'll be third and about 2. Larby, the defensive tackle, made the stop. There's Michael Larby, young man from Sun Valley High School. Had a half dozen tackles last 4 ball games. He's getting more reps as a junior for that defense Matt Guerreri's got. I'm going to play a look ahead here a little bit. Syracuse, by the way, has a bye week before they resume action.
Okay.
Next week's schedule, the North Carolina-Wake Forest game, again, we're not going to be able to say this enough, is a non-conference game.
Why? Why is it a non? Why are we having to do that non-conference?
Well, because
we got to get that fixed.
A couple of years ago, before all this started to evolve, actually, I thought Bubba Cunningham and Ron Wellman, who was John Curry's predecessor here, did a really smart thing.
It's very smart.
Wake and Carolina were not playing in a typical rotation as they were in older days, and both were looking for non-conference games. Both needed non-conference games. So they elected to schedule it, and you know what? I feel the same about Duke and NC State if they would ever kind of come to synergy on that.
Completely agree. And look, Jim Phillips is fairly new on the job. There's a lot of things he's going to enact. Like, we got to fix that.
Yeah.
Carolina and Wake shouldn't be having to schedule non-conference games to play each other more than once in a blue moon.
Amani Marshall around the edge, first down, and into the bench. Man, a little bit of speed for the young freshman from East Forsyth High School.
You're getting a look at the future for Wake Forest. I mean, we've seen a number of these young guys get out there and play, and Marshall did show the speed getting around the corner. So much so that he almost tumbled over the Duke bench, almost knocked it over.
We showed you those scoreboard earlier. Virginia Tech at 2-2, Roddy.
Yeah.
4-4.
Yeah.
Friday night at Boston College next week.
It's not often we say this, but the race for bowl eligibility in the ACC for like 8 teams is going to be fascinating.
Marshall again on the handoff from Michael Kern. And we get to the 4-minute mark here in this 4th period of play. Duke, by the way, will welcome Pittsburgh to Wallace Wade Stadium next Saturday.
If I may, Wes?
Yes, sir.
That is not the group that you want to see coming in next week.
Wow, no kidding.
The Kenny Pickett's playing at an unbelievable level. We saw the issues that these Wake receivers gave the Duke defensive backs. And it's not like you're taking a massive step back when you talk about Pitt's receivers and Jordan Addison, Taysir Mack, Jared Wayne has come on. You got Lucas Krull in the mix. And a quarterback that's playing as well as anybody.
Yeah. Quick throw and overfires. on the intended receiver, Green. So Christian Green, who is a young freshman from Ashburn, Virginia. There is Kevin Higgins, by the way. He is the wide receivers coach for these Demon Deacons. And Dave Clawson said earlier in the week, we think we've got the best wide receivers coach in the country. And be hard to argue.
I was going to say, he's got a really strong argument.
Yep.
Like A.T. Perry, Jaquari Roberson, Sage Surratt, Kendall Hinton was a quarterback, Scotty Washington, back to Greg Dortch. Like, these are guys that are all ACC caliber players who, I mean, how many other teams in the league wanted these guys?
Yeah. Look at the moves inside Marshall providing. Tell you what, Marnie Marshall doing a pretty good job of helping himself in the rotation. We've seen the three backs, Beal Smith, Ellison, Turner. We've now seen Cooley and Marshall. And enough there for Marshall to get a first down.
I like Amani Marshall.
Yep.
6'2", 220 pounds, showing the burst around the corner, showing some nifty moves.
Yep.
In there in the middle.
Roddy, you mentioned the sustainability of this program. I don't want to get away before we say this. Yesterday, Wake Forest announced another big football facility improvement.
Yep.
Under the league gift of Bob McCreary, who has just been unbelievable with his philanthropic nature to Wake Forest athletics, and in particular football. Mr. McCreary yesterday, a league gift of $20 million to a new football facility building. You see his name is already on the tower here. It's also on the video board in the end zone. He is in a small group. He is the lead of a small group of Wake alums that have done a phenomenal job of facility improvement. You and I we had an interesting conversation with Dave Clawson about this yesterday. And he said he had it happen a little bit at Richmond, certainly at Bowling Green. He said when you win, people will invest. And when they went to the bowl game in 16, he said that was the turning point for us. Now, they've got an indoor facility. They've got the practice fields. We saw those yesterday.
An indoor facility that is as good as anybody's in the country.
Absolutely. Operations building is coming. And here's the other thing. Dave Clawson said that the alignment at Wake Forest from Dr. Hatch to Ron Wellman and now President Susan Wente. Dr. Susan Wente's just arrived from Vanderbilt. And, of course, John Curry's the athletic director that followed Ron Wellman here at Wake Forest. John played soccer in his undergrad days at Wake, and now back here as the athletics director. The alignment from the president to the athletic director to the football coach, and then on the development side, Roddy, makes all the difference in the world.
Well, you can see it too. I mean, the willingness to invest in the program. Wake Forest is the smallest FBS school in the country.
Yep.
And so and with incredibly strict academic restrictions.
Yep.
So you're not able to go for just anybody. So you've got to have a coach that has a vision and how to build the program. Well, they've got that. You have to have an athletic director that's aligned as well.
We'll see Leo Kelly in at quarterback now for Wake Forest. Taylor, the conversation with Dave Clawson on that topic alone was as good as any part of our visit yesterday, I thought.
You're absolutely right, and I had a great conversation with Sam Hartman about that very topic, the growth of this program and the goals down the stretch. And he said, look, we know we have something special, but we have known that. I'm not sure why the perception has taken this long, but the focus is inward and they know what they're capable of. He said, we know something special is here, but we don't want that to be a burden. We very much have to have a 1 week at a time mentality, especially down this stretch. But he described the team as resilient. He said a lot of these guys were here last year. We are emotionally, physically, and mentally prepared for where this program is headed.
Well, they're getting ready to walk in about 66 seconds. They're getting ready to walk into water Wake Forest has never walked into.
Yeah, and come Tuesday, they're going to find themselves in company with the Michigan States, with the Notre Dames, if they take care of business with these elite programs that are name brands throughout college football. And let me tell you, Wes, they belong in that conversation. They're going to be on the fringe, maybe in, maybe out of the top 10, those first college football playoff rankings, and they deserve to be because they have been fantastic this season. This offense especially has been as exciting to watch as any in the country.
For the first time in their history, Wake Forest is 8-0. A touch of the knee, and Dave Clawson posts win number 48 in Winston-Salem and 138 in his career. And a handshake with David Cutcliffe. And the Deacons are 45-7 winners here tonight at Truist Field.
It's a dominant performance really on both sides of the football. The offense continue where they left off. They were fantastic. Sam Hartman, excellent. The defense really rebounded. Let's go down to Taylor. She's with Coach Clawson.
All right, Coach, I'll start with the defense this time. I know coming off last week, you wanted to see that side of the ball respond. How'd they do that tonight?
I mean, it was one of our better games. I thought we defended UVA really well, and then last 2 or 3 games, I didn't think we played up to our capability, but it was good to see us bounce back from Army last week.
Another game of over 600 total yards of offense. What can you say about the production on that side?
I mean, we're playing well. We have good players, and we got good coaches, and they're doing a great job, and it's an ACC win. It's a Big 4 win in the state of North Carolina. These are big games, so really proud of our team, but we got a great challenge next week heading to Chapel Hill.
For the first time in program history, an 8-0 start. How do you continue that momentum?
Let's go 1-0 next week.
Make it 9-0. There you go, Coach.
Right.
Congrats.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks to Taylor Davis. Thanks to Dave Clawson. Roddy, 8-0. 5-0 in the ACC. It's a non-conference game next Saturday at Kenan Stadium.
Yeah, and Coach Clawson said something there that I want to emphasize even more, because we often talk about Wake Forest as sort of a good team, a disciplined team. They don't beat themselves. They have really good players, Wes, and we don't lead with that like we do with some other teams. This is a really talented football team that is playing at a really high level.
Tell you what they've got. A high-level, high-powered offense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a defense that gained a lot of confidence. They're going to look to build on it against UNC next week.
So Wake Forest is 8-0 headed to Chapel Hill. It was impressive here today. 45-7 is the final. Great to be with Roddy Jones, Taylor Davis. Thanks to David Harris, our producer, Nick Young, our director, and our wonderful ACC network crew. Wes Durham from the Twin Cities. Now we go off to the big fella, Jordan Cornette, and the guys at the huddle.